Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Discovery, staring at the strange message that had arrived just hours ago. The ship floated in empty space, far from Earth, when the alien signal reached them. It was the first time aliens had ever contacted humanity directly. Commander Lisa Hayes worked at her station, trying to make sense of the complex transmission. She had been the ship's communications officer for 5 years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The message came in 17 different languages, none of them human. "Captain, I think I have it," Lisa said, looking up from her console. Her face showed both excitement and worry. "The computer has been working on the translation for 3 hours. It's from something called the Galactic Federation." Jake walked over to her station. He was a calm man, used to making tough decisions in deep space. But this was different. This could change everything for humanity. "What do they want?" he asked. Lisa pressed a button, and a voice filled the bridge. It sounded mechanical, like a computer speaking human words. "Greetings to the species known as humans. The Galactic Federation has observed your recent expansion into space. We invite you to join our community of civilized worlds." Dr. Aaron Blake, the ship scientist who studied alien life, looked up from his work. He had been examining the data that came with the message. "Captain, there's more information here. Details about their society, their technology, their rules." Jake nodded. "Tell me what you found." Aaron pulled up images on the main screen. They showed massive space stations, cities that covered entire planets, and ships larger than anything humans had ever built. The Federation includes over 200 different alien species. They control most of this part of the galaxy. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Now they knew they were not, and they were very, very small compared to what was out there. "There's more to the message," Lisa said quietly. "They're explaining what role humans would have in their federation." She played the rest of the transmission. The mechanical voice continued. "Based on our analysis of human capabilities, your species will be assigned to labor and maintenance duties. Human physical characteristics suggest suitability for mining operations, construction work, and basic technical support." The excitement on the bridge died instantly. Chief Engineer Susan Clark, who had been listening from her station, spoke up. "They want us to be their workers? Nothing else." Aaron was reading more of the data. His face grew darker with each line. "According to this, they rank all species by intelligence and capability. Humans are listed near the bottom. They say we're good for physical work, but not much else." Security Chief Ryan Davis stepped forward. He was a big man who usually stayed quiet, but now he looked angry. "So they contact us just to offer us jobs as janitors and miners." Jake read the message again, hoping he had misunderstood. But the meaning was clear. The Federation saw humans as useful only for the jobs no one else wanted to do. They were offering humanity a place in galactic society, but at the very bottom. "Captain," Lisa said, "there's a deadline for our response. They want an answer within 1 Earth month." Jake called his senior officers together in the ship's meeting room. The conversation was tense. Everyone understood that this decision would affect not just them, but all of humanity. "We have to consider what this means for Earth," Susan said. "The Federation is offering technology, energy sources, medicines, things that could solve many of our problems." Ryan disagreed. "At what cost? Our dignity? Our freedom to choose our own path." Aaron had spent hours studying the Federation data. The information they sent shows that some species have been with them for thousands of years. All of them seem to accept their assigned roles without question. Jake thought about Earth, about the billions of people waiting for news of this first contact. Would they accept a future where humans were seen as inferior beings? Or would they choose to remain alone in the universe? "We need to send this information back to Earth," he decided. "This choice is too big for us to make alone. Every human should have a voice in this decision." The message was sent back to Earth on the fastest ship the Discovery had. Within weeks, the news spread across the planet. Some people were excited about joining the galactic community, no matter what the cost. Others were angry about being offered such a low position. The debate raged for weeks. Politicians argued, scientists discussed, and ordinary people protested in the streets. In the end, The decision came down to a simple question. Was a place in galactic society worth accepting that humans were considered a lower form of life? Earth's final answer was yes. Humanity would join the Galactic Federation, even if it meant starting at the bottom. They believed they could prove their worth over time and earn respect from the other species. Jake received the orders on the Discovery. Humanity had accepted the Federation's offer. Soon, human ships would travel to Federation worlds, and humans would begin their new lives as the galaxy's Labours. As he looked out at the stars, Jake wondered if they had made the right choice. Only time would tell if humanity could rise above the role they had been given, or if they would be trapped forever as the Federation's workers. 5 years had passed since humanity joined the Galactic Federation. Tony Rodriguez wiped sweat from his face as he stood in the deep tunnels of Kepler 442b. The mining world was hot, dusty, and dangerous. As the human foreman, he watched over 50 other humans who worked 12-hour shifts digging rare metals from the planet's core. The Zeltherized supervisor, a tall creature with gray skin and 4 arms, walked through the tunnel. His name was something humans could not pronounce, so they called him Boss. He stopped next to Tony and looked at the day's progress. Humans work too slowly, Boss said in broken English. Need more output. Federation needs these metals. Tony wanted to argue. The humans were working as hard as they could. The equipment was old and broke down often. The tunnels were unstable and cave-ins happened every few weeks. But arguing with the Zelthari never helped. We're doing our best, Tony said quietly. Boss made a sound that might have been laughter. Human best is not good enough. Work fast or Federation finds new workers. Tony knew what that meant. There were always more humans willing to take dangerous jobs. Earth's population was eager for any work that paid Federation credits. Those credits bought technology and medicine that Earth desperately needed. On the other side of the galaxy, Karen Bell was cleaning the air filters in a massive space station called Nexus Prime. It was one of the Federation's biggest trading posts, where ships from hundreds of worlds came to buy and sell goods. Karen had been working there for 3 years, maintaining the life support systems that kept millions of aliens alive. Her job was simple but important. If the air filters failed, everyone on the station would die. But the Federation treated her like she was invisible. Alien traders walked past her without looking. Station security ignored her when she reported problems. Karen lived in the human quarters, a small section of the station where all the human workers stayed. The rooms were tiny and crowded. Families shared spaces meant for one person. But it was still better than the life she had left on Earth. Her daughter Amy was 12 years old and spent her days in the station's human school. It was a basic education, focused on preparing children for labor jobs. Amy was smart and wanted to learn about engineering and science, but those classes were only for alien children. Mom, why can't I take the advanced math class? Amy asked one evening as they ate dinner in their small room. Karen felt her heart break a little. Honey, those classes are for alien kids. The Federation says humans aren't ready for that kind of learning. Amy looked confused and hurt. But I'm good at math, better than most of the alien kids in my basic class. Karen had no answer for her daughter. The Federation's rules were clear. Humans were workers, not thinkers. Children learned enough to do their jobs, but nothing more. Back on Earth, President Helen Carter sat in her office reading reports from human communities across Federation space. The news was always the same. Humans worked the hardest and most dangerous jobs. They were paid less than other species. They lived in the worst housing and ate the cheapest food. But the Federation's support had transformed Earth. Clean energy powered every city. New medicines had ended diseases that had killed millions. Advanced farming techniques had ended hunger. The price for all of this was human dignity. Peter Stone knocked on the president's door. He led the largest human rights group on Earth and had been fighting against Federation membership since the beginning. Madam President, we need to talk, he said as he entered the office. Helen nodded. She knew why he was there. Another report had come in from the mining worlds. This time, a tunnel collapse had killed 15 humans on a planet called Vega 7. The Federation's response was the same as always. Accidents happen. Humans knew the risks when they took the jobs. They are treating us like slaves, Peter said, his voice full of anger. Our people are dying in their mines and factories while they get rich from our work. Helen understood his frustration. She felt it too. But she also knew the reality of Earth's situation. Peter, if we leave the Federation, what happens to our energy supply? Our medicines? Our food production? Millions of people will die. Peter slammed his hand on her desk. And how many are dying now in Federation mines? How many children are growing up believing they are worth less than aliens? The argument continued for hours, but it always ended the same way. Earth was trapped. They needed the Federation's technology to survive, but the cost was getting higher every year. On Nexus Prime, Karen received a message that changed everything. Amy had applied to the Federation's Youth Science Program, a special school for gifted children. Her test scores were perfect, higher than 90% of alien applicants. The rejection letter was short and cruel. Human applicant lacks the cognitive development necessary for advanced scientific study. Application denied based on species limitations. Karen read the letter 3 times before the words sank in. Her brilliant daughter had been rejected not because she was not smart enough, but because she was human. That night, Karen sent a message to her sister on Earth. She attached Amy's test scores and the rejection letter. Within hours, the story was spreading across human networks. A 12-year-old girl, smarter than most aliens, had been denied education because of her species. The Federation had made a mistake. They had shown their true feelings about humanity in writing. Now every human could see exactly what the aliens thought of them. The mining accident on Kepler 442b happened on a Tuesday morning. Tony Rodriguez was checking the support beams in Tunnel 7 when he heard the rumbling sound. He knew what it meant and started running toward the exit, shouting for everyone to follow him. The cave-in trapped 23 human workers deep underground. Tony and the rescue teams worked for 18 hours straight, digging through tons of rock and metal. They saved 8 people. 15 others died, including Tony's close friend Danny Murphy, who had 2 young children back on Earth. The Zeltharai supervisor arrived 3 hours after the accident. He looked at the collapsed tunnel and made notes on his electronic pad. "How long to clear the debris?" he asked Tony. Tony stared at him in shock. 15 people just died. Don't you care about that? Boss shrugged his 4 shoulders. Accident happened in mining. When can work resume? We need better safety equipment, Tony said, his anger growing. Those support beams were old. I reported cracks in them last month. You said fixing them was too expensive. Humans are cheaper than equipment, Boss replied. Federation will send more workers if needed. That night, Tony called a secret meeting in the human living quarters. Word spread quietly among the miners. They met in the old storage room, away from the alien security cameras. 50 humans crowded into the small space. They don't care if we live or die, Tony told the group. We're just tools to them. When a tool breaks, they throw it away and get a new one. Maria Santos, who had worked in the mines for 4 years, spoke up. What can we do? If we complain, they'll fire us and send us back to Earth. Our families need the money. Maybe that's better than dying in these tunnels, said Jim Parker, whose brother had died in the cave-in. The meeting lasted until dawn. They made plans to document every safety violation, every dangerous situation, every time the Federation put human lives at risk. Tony would send the information to Earth, hoping someone there would listen. Meanwhile, on Earth, Amy Bell's story had spread across every news network. The 12-year-old girl who was too smart for Federation schools became a symbol of human frustration. Protests began in major cities around the world. Mary Johnson, a teacher from Chicago, organized the first major demonstration. She had been following the stories of human workers in Federation space for years. Amy's rejection was the final proof that the Federation would never see humans as equals. They judge us by our species, not our abilities, Mary told a crowd of 10,000 protesters. Our children deserve better than a future of digging in alien mines. Paul Wright, an engineer from California, joined the protests after losing his job to Federation automation. The aliens had provided new machines that could do his work faster and cheaper. Now he cleaned toilets at the Federation embassy while his engineering degree gathered dust. I spent 8 years learning to build bridges and design buildings, Paul told reporters. Now I'm scrubbing floors because the Federation thinks that's all humans are good for. President Helen Carter watched the protest from her office window. Peter Stone sat across from her desk, holding a thick folder of documents. These are the reports from our workers, Peter said, opening the folder. Mining accidents, factory explosions, construction collapses, all preventable if the Federation cared about human safety. Helen read through the papers. Each page told the same story. Humans doing dangerous work with bad equipment while aliens made profits from their labor. The Amy Bell case broke everything open, Peter continued. People finally see that the Federation will never accept us as equals. We're permanent servants in their society. A message arrived on Helen's desk from Dr. Aaron Blake, now working as a consultant on Federation labor policies. He had investigated a mining accident on Kepler 442b and found that the Federation had known about the safety problem for months. They have detailed reports about unstable tunnels and failing equipment, Aaron's message said. They calculated that replacing human workers would cost less than fixing the safety issues. 15 people died because their lives were worth less than the price of new support beams. Helen felt sick reading the report. The Federation had made a business decision to let humans die rather than spend money on safety. Admiral Jake Morrison, now commanding Earth's small fleet of exploration ships, received new orders that surprised him. Operation Exodus was classified at the highest level. Only a few people on Earth knew about it. Chief Engineer Susan Clark joined him in a secure meeting room. "What are we planning?" she asked, looking at the classified files. "We're going to study every Federation system," Jake explained. "Their technology, their trade routes, their dependencies. We need to understand how everything works." Susan understood immediately. "We're planning to leave, aren't we?" Jake nodded. "The President hasn't made the final decision yet, but we need to be ready. If humanity walks away from the Federation, we have to know how to survive on our own." Dr. Blake sent another message from Federation Space. "I've been studying their society for 5 years. They depend on human workers more than they realize. If we disappeared tomorrow, their economy would collapse within months." The secret preparations began that night. Small teams of humans started gathering information across Federation space. They mapped trade routes, studied alien technology, and identified weaknesses in Federation systems. Karen Bell, still working on Nexus Prime, received a coded message from Earth. Her job was to quietly document everything about the station's operations. How many humans worked there, what they did, and what would happen if they all left at once. Amy's rejection letter had started something bigger than anyone expected. It had awakened humanity to the truth about their place in the Federation. They were not members of an interstellar community. They were slaves with better living conditions. The Federation had made a fatal mistake. They had pushed humanity too far, and now humans were preparing to push back. General Patricia Hayes stood in the Secret Command Center deep beneath Washington, D.C. The room had been built in total secrecy over the past 6 months. No Federation technology was used in its construction. Everything was made by human hands using human materials. Operation Exodus is now active, she announced to the team of 12 people gathered around the holographic display. These were humanity's best and brightest, chosen from across Earth's military and scientific communities. The plan was simple in concept but massive in scope. Every human worker in Federation space would quietly prepare to leave at the same time. They would take their knowledge, their skills, and anything useful they could carry. But first, they needed to build the networks to make it possible. Tony Rodriguez received his new orders through a message hidden in a routine family letter. His sister wrote about their mother's health and their nephew's school grades. But between the lines, encoded in a way only Tony would understand, were his real instructions. He was now a cell leader, responsible for organizing 300 human miners across 5 different worlds. Each miner would recruit 2 others, who would recruit 2 more. Within months, every human worker in the mining sector would be part of the network. The meetings moved to different locations each week, sometimes in empty storage rooms, sometimes in broken machinery that no one bothered to fix. Tony taught the miners how to communicate using coded language and how to hide supplies without being detected. "We're not rebels," Tony told his group during one meeting. "We're employees giving our 2 weeks' notice. The Federation wants to treat us like disposable tools. Fine. Tools don't have to stay where they are not wanted." On Nexus Prime, Karen Bell had become the network coordinator for service workers. Her job cleaning air filters gave her access to every part of the massive station. She knew where every human worked, what they did, and how important their jobs really were. Karen discovered something that surprised even her. Humans didn't just do the basic maintenance work. Over the years, they had quietly become essential to everything. They fixed problems that the automated systems missed. They found efficient solutions that the alien engineers had overlooked. They kept the station running smoothly in 1,000 small ways. Amy, now 13, helped her mother by creating maps of the station's critical systems. The girl's natural intelligence had found new ways to express itself. She understood the station's computer networks better than most of the alien technicians. Mom, if all the humans left at once, how long would the station keep working? Amy asked one evening as they reviewed their secret files. Karen had been thinking about the same question. Maybe 2 weeks before major systems start failing. A month before everything shuts down. Back on Earth, Dr. Sandra Mitchell led a team of scientists working on humanity's biggest challenge. They needed to develop technology that could replace what they would lose by leaving the Federation. Energy sources, medical equipment, communication systems, and space travel technology all had to be redesigned using purely human knowledge. The Federation gave us that technology, but they never taught us how it works, Sandra explained to her team. We've been using their tools without understanding the science behind them. That has to change if we want to be independent. Working in secret laboratories around the world, human scientists reverse-engineered Federation devices. They studied alien materials and learned to make similar substances using Earth resources. It was slow work, but they were making progress. Captain Rick Taylor commanded the UES Ranger, one of 20 ships that officially explored space of the Federation but secretly served Operation Exodus. His job was to find suitable worlds where humans could establish new colonies, far from Federation control. Rick had discovered 12 potentially habitable planets in regions the Federation had never explored. More importantly, he had made contact with other species that existed outside Federation space. The Hydrans were aquatic beings who lived in underwater cities on ocean planets. They had been contacted by the Federation 50 years ago, but had refused to join. The Federation dismissed them as primitive water dwellers and left them alone. Rick found the Hydrans to be highly intelligent and technologically advanced. Their underwater cities were marvels of engineering. Their biotechnology was centuries ahead of anything humans had seen. Captain Sarah Lewis, commanding the UES Explorer, made contact with a Nexary on a crystalline world at the edge of known space. These beings were made of living crystal and could manipulate electromagnetic fields in ways that seemed like magic. Both species were interested in trading with humans. They had resources and knowledge that humanity needed. More importantly, they shared humanity's belief that cooperation should be based on mutual respect, not domination. Ambassador Steve Clark, working from a hidden base on Europa, began formal diplomatic talks with both species. These conversations laid the groundwork for what would become the Independent Coalition. The Federation thinks they're the only game in town, Steve reported to General Hayes. But there's a whole galaxy of species they've ignored or dismissed. Some of them have capabilities that would surprise the Federation. The Federation remained completely unaware of humanity's preparations. High Coordinator Velthara received regular reports about minor inefficiencies in human work performance, but these were attributed to typical human limitations. Dr. Blake, still working within the Federation as a consultant, provided crucial intelligence about Federation weaknesses. He had identified the systems and processes that depended most heavily on human workers. When humans left, these would be the first to fail. The Federation has become lazy, Blake reported in a coded message to Earth. They assume their automated systems can handle everything. But humans have been quietly fixing problems and preventing failures for years. Without us, they'll discover how much they really need us. Laura Green, working as an economist in the Federation's trade division, carefully studied the financial networks that connected human labor to alien profits. Her job was to find ways to disrupt these systems when humans departed. Every human worker generates an average of 50,000 Federation credits per year in economic value, Laura reported. Multiply that by 12 million human workers, and we're talking about 600 billion credits annually. That's enough to crash several major Federation industries. As the first year of Operation Exodus came to an end, humanity had built something the Federation thought impossible. A secret network spanning hundreds of worlds. Coordinated by humans, the aliens considered too primitive to organize anything complex. The Federation had taught humanity an important lesson about underestimating others. Soon they would learn that lesson themselves. The day humanity disappeared from Federation space started like any other day. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, hidden in an asteroid field 3 light-years from the nearest Federation world. Around him, 200 human ships waited for the signal that would change galactic history forever. All stations report ready, Commander Lisa Hayes announced from her position at the communications console. She had spent the last month coordinating with human cells across Federation space, using coded messages hidden in routine transmissions. Dr. Mitchell, are the disruption protocols ready? Morrison asked. Dr. Sandra Mitchell nodded from her science station. Every virus is loaded and waiting. Every sabotage device is in position. Every critical system has been identified. Morrison looked at the chronometer. In exactly 1 hour, Operation Exodus would begin. 12 million humans would vanish from Federation space in the largest coordinated evacuation in galactic history. On Kepler 442b, Tony Rodriguez finished his last inspection of the mining tunnels. His teams had spent weeks preparing special charges that would collapse the main shaft without killing anyone. The mines would be unusable for years, but no one would be hurt. Remember, we're not trying to hurt anyone, Tony told his team leaders. We just want to make sure they can't use our work after we're gone. Each miner carried a small bag of personal belongings and a data pad containing everything they had learned about mining operations. The Federation had thought humans were just muscle and sweat. They would soon discover that human workers had been the brains behind their mining empire. Maria Santos activated the first demolition charge at exactly noon, Federation Standard Time. The explosion echoed through the tunnels as support beams collapsed and machinery was buried under tons of rock. Within minutes, every mine on Kepler 442b was shut down permanently. On Nexus Prime, Karen Bell stood in the central computer core, her daughter Amy beside her. Over the past year, Amy had created a computer virus that would slowly corrupt the station's automated systems. It would take weeks for Federation technicians to understand what was happening. Are you sure this will work? Karen asked her daughter. Amy smiled. Mom, I've been studying their computers for 2 years. This virus will make every automated system work, just a little bit wrong. Nothing dangerous, but nothing will work quite right either. Karen uploaded the virus into the main computer network. Across the massive station, thousands of small programs began changing crucial data by tiny amounts. Navigation systems would calculate wrong coordinates. Life support would waste energy. Trading computers would make small errors in every transaction. Meanwhile, human maintenance workers throughout the station were completing their final tasks. They removed critical spare parts from important machines. They changed access codes on security systems. They deleted repair manuals from computer databases. Captain Rick Taylor led the evacuation fleet that collected humans from 17 different worlds. His ships moved silently through space, using routes he had mapped during months of secret exploration. The Federation's tracking systems never detected them. All passengers are aboard, reported Captain Sarah Lewis from the UES Explorer. 3,000 humans from the agricultural worlds are secured. Manufacturing sector complete, announced Captain Bokchen from the UES Pioneer. 5,000 workers from the factory worlds are ready for departure. One by one, the evacuation fleets reported success. Humans vanished from mining worlds, manufacturing centers, space stations, and research facilities. They took their knowledge, their skills, and their children. They left behind empty quarters and shut down operations. The Federation noticed the disappearances within hours, but they initially dismissed them as unrelated incidents. Humans had always been unreliable workers, prone to emotional outbursts and irrational behavior. High Coordinator Velthara received the first reports while meeting with the Federation Council. Several human work groups have failed to report for duty, her assistant informed her. Mining operations on 12 worlds have stopped. Send replacement workers, Velthara replied without concern. Humans are easily replaced. But as the hours passed, the reports multiplied. Humans were missing from every Federation facility. Space stations were operating with skeleton crews. Manufacturing plants had shut down completely. Mining world was silent. President Helen Carter stood before the cameras in the White House, ready to deliver humanity's farewell message to the Federation. She had practiced her speech for months, choosing every word carefully. People of the Federation, she began, her voice calm and professional. Humanity has decided to withdraw from Federation membership, effective immediately. We thank you for the opportunity to serve, but we have chosen to pursue our own path among the stars. The message was broadcast across Federation space by Ambassador Steve Clark from a hidden transmitter. There were no demands, no threats, no negotiations. Just a simple goodbye. We wish all Federation species peace and prosperity, Carter continued. Humanity will no longer be available to fulfill labor contracts or maintenance agreements. We recommend you begin training replacement workers immediately. The message ended with a list of human-managed facilities that would require immediate attention to prevent dangerous failures. It was a final act of responsibility from people the Federation had treated as disposable. Admiral Morrison watched the Federation's first response from his command ship. Emergency messages flew between Federation worlds as officials tried to understand what had happened. The aliens had never imagined that humans could organize such a massive operation. "Sir, we're receiving angry communications from Federation commanders," Lisa reported. "They're demanding we return immediately." Morrison almost smiled. "Tell them humanity is no longer accepting orders from the Federation. We're free agents now." Dr. Blake, who had remained behind to monitor Federation reactions, sent a final report before escaping on the last human ship. Complete chaos across all sectors. They had no backup plan for human departure. Most facilities will be inoperable within days. The Great Exodus was complete. Humanity had walked away from the Galactic Federation, leaving behind only empty rooms and broken systems. The aliens who had treated humans as inferior beings were about to discover exactly how much they had depended on the species they considered primitive. In space stations across the galaxy, automated systems began to fail without human maintenance. On mining worlds, extraction operations ground to a halt without human knowledge and experience. On manufacturing planets, production lines shut down without human workers to keep them running. The Federation had learned too late that they had built their empire on the backs of the species they valued least. Now that foundation was gone, and everything built on top of it was beginning to collapse. 6 months after humanity's departure, the Galactic Federation was falling apart. High Coordinator Velthara stood in the Emergency Council chamber, looking at reports that got worse every day. Half the seats around the massive circular table were empty. Dozens of species had already left the Federation. "Mining production is down 70%, reported Trade Minister Kextan, his 4 eyes blinking nervously. "The Zeltharai Empire is threatening to leave the Federation if we cannot restore their mineral supplies." Velthara felt a pain in her chest that she had never experienced before. It might have been what humans called panic. What about the automated systems? The robots were supposed to replace human workers. "The robots don't work," replied Defense Coordinator Mortek. "They can dig holes and move rocks, but they cannot think. Human workers made thousands of small decisions every day. They solved problems before they became disasters. Without them, everything breaks down." On Nexus Prime, the massive space station was dying slowly. Chief Administrator Zelmora walked through corridors where half the lights no longer worked. The air smelled stale because the filtration systems were failing. Trade ships arrived less often because the docking computers gave wrong instructions. "How long before we have to evacuate?" Zelmora asked his engineering team. "Maybe 2 months," replied his chief engineer. "The humans left viruses in our computer systems that we still cannot find. Every day, more things stop working properly." The station that had once been the center of galactic trade was becoming a ghost town. Alien merchants were already moving their business to other locations. Soon, Nexus Prime will be just another piece of space junk floating in the void. Meanwhile, in a distant part of the galaxy, humanity was building something new. The Independent Coalition had grown from 3 species to 15 in just 6 months. Admiral Morrison stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station, humanity's first major space habitat built without Federation technology. The Hydrans have agreed to share their biotechnology, reported Ambassador Steve Clark. And the Nexari want to establish a joint research facility to study energy manipulation. Morrison watched construction ships working on the station's expansion. Human engineers worked alongside Hydran biotechnicians and Nexari energy specialists. The three species had different strengths, but they shared a common belief in cooperation and respect. What about the other species that have left the Federation? Morrison asked. 12 more have asked to join the coalition, Steve replied. The Kelton bird people left the Federation last week. They said they were tired of being treated as second-class citizens. Captain Rick Taylor had been busy exploring new regions of space with mixed crews of humans and aliens. His latest discovery was a group of machine beings called the Architects. They had been building massive structures in empty space for thousands of years. The Architects are interested in joining us, Rick reported during a secure communication. They have construction technology that makes Federation engineering look primitive, but they want to know if we treat artificial life forms as equals. The question was easy to answer. The Coalition's founding principle was simple: all intelligent life had value, regardless of its form or origin. The Architects joined within a week. Dr. Blake, now serving as a Coalition's intelligence director, received regular reports about Federation collapse. His network of contact provided detailed information about the chaos spreading across Federation space. 3 more mining worlds have been abandoned, Blake reported during a Coalition Council meeting. The Vorthan Empire has lost half its industrial capacity. They are blaming the Federation leadership for becoming too dependent on human labor. President Carter, now leading the Coalition government, read the reports with mixed feelings. She felt no joy in the Federation suffering, but she was proud of what humanity had accomplished. Are there any requests for help from Federation species? She asked. Blake nodded. Several minor species have asked if they can join the Coalition. They say the Federation is collapsing, and they want to be part of something that actually works. The Coalition welcomed the refugees. Unlike the Federation, which ranked species by supposed intelligence and ability, the Coalition valued every member's unique contributions. Former Federation species found themselves treated as equal for the first time in centuries. Amy Bell, now 14, had become one of the Coalition's youngest technical advisors. Her computer skills had helped design the networks that connected Coalition worlds. She worked with alien programmers who treated her ideas with respect. The Federation never understood that intelligence comes in many forms, Amy told her mother during a video call. Karen was now managing life support systems on New Geneva Station, using skills the Federation had dismissed as simple maintenance work. They thought humans were only good for manual labor, Karen replied. Now look at us. We're building a civilization that makes a Federation look backwards. The Coalition's success was built on principles the Federation had abandoned. Instead of forcing species into rigid roles, the Coalition encouraged everyone to contribute their best abilities. Instead of ranking members by supposed superiority, they valued diversity and cooperation. General Hayes, now the Coalition's military coordinator, received intelligence that made her smile. The Federation has lost control of the major trade routes. Pirates are attacking merchant ships because Federation security forces can't maintain patrol schedules. The Federation had built their empire on the assumption that some species were naturally superior to others. They had treated humans as disposable workers and ignored the contributions of smaller species. Now that foundation of arrogance was crumbling. High Coordinator Velthara sent desperate messages to President Carter, begging humanity to return to the Federation. She offered better working conditions, higher pay, and improved status for human workers. Carter's response was polite but firm. Humanity has found its place among the stars. We wish the Federation well, but we will not return to a system that treats any species as inferior. The message ended with an invitation. Any Federation species that values cooperation over domination is welcome to apply for Coalition membership. Within days, the Federation received applications from 40 different species. The Great Alliance that had once dominated the galaxy was becoming a shadow of its former self, while the Coalition grew stronger every month. 2 years after humanity walked away from the Galactic Federation, the galaxy looked completely different. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, leading an exploration fleet into unknown space. Beside him worked Captain Reevdow, a hydrant whose blue skin sparkled with bioluminescent patterns, and Engineer Crystal Song, a Nexary whose crystalline body hummed with electromagnetic energy. Long-range sensors are detecting artificial structures ahead, reported Dr. Aaron Blake from his science station. The configurations don't match any known technology. Morrison nodded. Take us in slowly. Remember, we're explorers, not conquerors. The structures they found were massive beyond imagination. Ancient cities floating in space, connected by bridges of pure energy. The builders had been gone for thousands of years, but their ruins told a story that Blake found deeply disturbing. Captain, you need to see this, Blake called from the archaeological site. He stood in what had once been a great library, its walls covered with symbols from dozens of different species. What did you find? Morrison asked, joining Blake among the ancient texts. Records of the last galactic civilization, Blake explained. They call themselves the Great Assembly. Over 500 species working together, building wonders we can barely imagine. Morrison studied the symbols. Even without understanding the language, he could see the story they told. Different species contributing their unique abilities to create something magnificent. What happened to them? Morrison asked. Blake pointed to the final sections of the wall. The same thing that's happening to the Federation. A few powerful species decided they were superior to the others. They created a hierarchy, ranking everyone by supposed intelligence and ability. Within 300 years, the Assembly collapsed. On Earth, President Helen Carter read Blake's report with growing concern. The parallels to the Federation were frightening. A great civilization had destroyed itself through arrogance and prejudice. We need to make sure the Coalition doesn't make the same mistakes, Carter told her advisors during an emergency meeting. Ambassador Steve Clark had been thinking the same thing. The Coalition Charter specifically prevents any species from claiming superiority over others, but we should strengthen those protections. Meanwhile, the Galactic Federation was holding its own emergency session. High Coordinator Velthara looked around a council chamber that was now 3/4 empty. Only 6 to 7 species remained out of the original 203. We must negotiate with the humans, Velthara said to the remaining delegates. Without them, the Federation cannot survive. The Zeltharai representative, whose species had once supervised human miners, disagreed. Humans are primitive. We should be able to replace them with proper automation. Then why haven't you? Challenged the Kelvin delegate. The bird-like aliens had left the Federation 6 months ago, but returned when they realized the Coalition was full. Your mining operations have been shut down for over a year. Velthara made a decision she should have made years ago. She would travel to Coalition space personally and beg humanity to return. It was humiliating, but the Federation was dying. She arrived at New Geneva Station aboard a small diplomatic vessel. The station was magnificent, built using technologies from a dozen different species working together. It made Federation architecture look crude and primitive. President Carter met Velthara in a conference room with windows overlooking the construction of a new city-ship. Humans, Hydrans, Nexary, Kelton, and half a dozen other species worked together on the massive project. Humanity must return to the Federation, Velthara said without introduction. We are prepared to offer full citizenship, equal representation in the Council, and shared authority over Federation policy. Carter listened politely, then shook her head. High Coordinator, humanity has found its place among the stars. We've built something better than what the Federation offered. You cannot survive without Federation technology and resources, Velthara insisted. Carter gestured toward the window, where the construction project continued. We've been surviving quite well for 2 years. Our new alliance has technologies the Federation never dreamed of. The truth was painful for Velthara to accept. The Coalition had grown to include 96 species, nearly half the Federation's original membership. They had formed trade networks, research partnerships, and defense agreements that made the Federation look obsolete. What do you want from us? Velthara asked desperately. Nothing, Carter replied. But any Federation species that wants to join a community based on equality and mutual respect is welcome to apply for Coalition membership. Velthara returned to Federation space with the devastating news. Humanity would not return. Worse, they were offering an alternative that many remaining Federation species found attractive. Over the following months, more species left the Federation to join the coalition. The Thorian Crystal Shapers, the Melanin Cloud Dancers, the Korvac Hive Minds, all chose cooperation over domination. Amy Bell, now 16, graduated from the Coalition's Interspecies University with degrees in both engineering and diplomacy. She had grown up in a galaxy where her abilities were valued regardless of her species. Her first assignment was to welcome the Resonance, beings of pure energy who had been rejected by the Federation as too alien. "Welcome to the Coalition," Amy said to the energy beings through a special communication device. "We're excited to learn from your unique perspective." The Federation continued to exist, but as a shadow of its former power. 60 species remained, clinging to the old ways of hierarchy and dominance. They controlled a few dozen star systems while the Coalition expanded across hundreds. Admiral Morrison led the UES Destiny on its latest mission, first contact with a species of machine intelligences discovered in the galactic rim. The architect had recommended the Coalition make contact, believing these artificial beings could contribute unique insights to their growing community. Dr. Blake, now the Coalition's chief xenological advisor, had compiled his research into the ancient Great Assembly. His report became required reading for all Coalition leaders, a reminder of what happened when civilization forgot that diversity was strength. The Great Assembly fell because they forgot a simple truth, Blake wrote in his conclusion. Intelligence comes in many forms, and wisdom lies in recognizing the value of all thinking beings. President Carter stood in her office on New Geneva Station, looking out at the stars where Coalition ships travel freely between hundreds of worlds. She thought about the journey that had brought them here, from humanity's humiliating acceptance of Federation servitude to their leadership in a galactic community based on respect. She opened her personal journal and wrote the words that would define humanity's legacy. They thought they didn't want us because they couldn't see past their own prejudices. When we walked away, we didn't just leave them, we left them behind. The galaxy had learned that true strength came not from dominating others, but from building communities where everyone could contribute their best. The Federation had taught humanity this lesson through their cruelty. Now humanity was teaching it to the stars through their compassion. In the end, the species that the Federation had considered least valuable had shown the galaxy what civilization really meant. Not hierarchy and dominance, but cooperation and respect. Not superiority and submission, but equality and partnership. The humans had walked away from those who didn't want them, and in doing so, they had found those who did.